I would just say build a better deck.
Oh, good for you!
Ooh, welcome to the Commander Smiths.
We are the Commander Smiths.
I'm Adam Smith.
And I'm Lowry Smith.
Don't worry.
We're cousins.
Hey, we got it. It's been like, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? It feels like forever. I missed your face, Lowry.
I thought you were talking about, we didn't mess up the intro.
Oh.
But yeah,
You've been gone.
the recording part. I missed you too.
Episode 349, and Lowry is back in the United States. And how was your trip, buddy? How was Germany?
It was good. It was
Where's
a lot
the
of fun. Mostly we were in Belgium. We were in Brussels for the first like 3-4 days. Then we went to Cologne, Germany for 3-4 days for the wedding. And then we went to Antwerp for the last 3-4 days, and we were there for about 2 weeks. So lots of fun. The kids are still wore out. I'm still wore out. Jet lagged as fuck. This is the latest I've stayed up in the last 4 days.
You got back on what, Friday?
Friday night, yeah. So but yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did a lot of traveling. Lots of beer.
Yep. I saw the pictures there. It was funny because you'd be posting on the Discord. I'm like, it's 7 a.m. What is he doing? Oh, that's right. He's 7 hours ahead of us.
Yes. It was fantastic.
You also got magic cards while there, you lucky bastard. You
I did.
Son of a bitch.
So my wife's cousin who was getting married, he gave my son his Pokemon collection, which was just like it was like a deck and a case and stuff like that. And then he had heard that I was a Magic player, and he gave me all of his Magic cards, which there was not like a ton, but there was enough there, and there was some good old cards that he had gotten kind of like from his dad. And so I hanged on to everything that was good. Couldn't bring everything back, unfortunately. There was enough bulk, but you just can't carry that back on a flight type thing. Like, it weighs a lot. They're basically books when you have all of them together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but there was like an old demonic tutor. I got my first old art soul ring.
For you.
Yeah, I was.
You didn't have one of the OG soul rings? So you got a revised one then? Is that what, yeah. Nice. Yeah, I like that's my favorite one. Nice.
But it was fun to go through. Always fun to get, like, whenever you're offered a collection, I highly suggest you take it, even if you don't have the room or whatever. Just kind of go through it.
Especially when it's free, right? I mean, that's the other part.
Especially when it's free. But it's fun when you get to kind of look through that stuff. And
are you going to do a video on going through that stuff at all, you think?
No, I went through it and dispersed it. And
okay, you already kind of took
thing. It's just half of it was in German and stuff like that, so I still have that. I might like hand that off to little Lowry when he gets old enough, just to kind of have fun with it a little bit.
Oh, Renshaw, you get this.
Oh, good for you.
He has one of those signed by.
That is a good one to have signed. But yeah, lot of beer, a lot of
How'd the gout
mostly
do?
beer.
Did the gout stay away?
It did really well.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
I don't know why it did well,
I think
but
it just means you got to keep going with it, right? Because then it's just like
I
your
don't.
body.
I think it was because I was walking a lot. We were walking a few hours a day, and
you walked that beer off, is what you're saying? It didn't.
yeah,
It didn't.
maybe I don't know. I'm just not that active here, in the States at home. And so, but they have Trappist beer, and so what that is like something that the monks brew up in the I don't know, monk villages. I don't know. It's like a churches up in the mountains and stuff like that. And they brew very good beer, and it's what they fast with apparently. So they'll fast during a certain period of the year.
That's a
And
good
that's
way
kinda
to fast. You get
right.
hammered because
They
you don't
just
have
get
any food in
fucked
you.
up for a month. Like so and it might not be as harsh or whatever. There might be different rules. So but like I think my favorite one was probably I think it's West Mall. West Mall, that was probably my favorite. And then my wife really got into lambics. Those were really good. Lehman's.
This is all
Those
foreign.
were really tasty.
All foreign to
So
me. I
yeah,
have no idea. I've never-
well, lambics is like basically a slightly alcoholic juice,
okay. So like
but
a
it's also like the best juice you've
wine-ish?
ever had.
Like wine, kind of in a way. Then.
No. Wine's like bad compared to this.
Oh, okay. I was like,
It's like
eh.
fucking amazing juice.
Okay. You're
But the
feeding
thing
it to the
is that
kids?
the alcohol content's way low. It's like 3%
Okay.
instead of 12%
basi-
like wine.
That's basically like water at that point.
It's juice. That's what I keep on
Right.
saying.
So
It's basically a
you're
juice,
giving it
but
to
it's
Little Lau, right?
delicious.
Little Lau had it.
No, I'm sure they do that. That's like but it's so good. It's very very tasty.
And you
So
did you bring some booze home with you then?
we went to 2 chocolate museums. Chocolate's a big thing there in Belgium and Germany.
And freaking waffles, every damn thing. You were like, well, it's basically like candy you guys were eating for meals, just piled with shit on there. That was awesome. You were like, well, here's lunch, and it was just waffle with just. God, you had so much shit on it. Like that was,
which time? Like all the time.
You said it. You're like, I don't think this is really a meal. This is more like a dessert for our lunch, or whatever you said.
There was a waffle with like caramel and speculoos, and like that was so fucking good. It was.
I don't even. What
really,
the hell
really
is
good.
speculoos? I don't even know what that is.
Like European graham cracker, I think.
And you had that ostrich egg pancake, and I was like, ugh. I even told that to Cindy. She's like, disgusting.
They said disgusting. It didn't
weird.
taste off at all. It was sadly didn't taste any. Like I want to do it for like the experience and stuff like that. And so, but if it just tasted like chicken eggs. And so, And also they're like very thin pancakes.
Yeah, it looked like you were eating a tortilla is what it was.
It's like a crepe. We've had this
we already did this on the Discord.
Crepes
what the hell is a crepe?
Okay. Oh boy. But yeah, I actually had a beef stew. Fucking, it was amazing.
You had
so
everything
good.
that your gout should be just on fire for like months at this point, and for some reason you're fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I got lucky.
You just might need to move there, is what you're saying, because then your gout stays away. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, that's something you're trying to say.
Touche.
And I'm thinking about it now. Oh, Ian.
I'm
I'm unemployable in Europe. They would not want me. So,
we should probably get to the Commander stuff, because we're getting questions on Caesar and Commander. Like, is it Caesar?
What's your guys' opinion on Caesar in Commander? Are we talking about the salad?
I know. It was like,
what is Caesar?
Are we talking about Caesar? Wasn't he from isn't he from the Warhammer? Wasn't that Caesar one of them?
Oh, I guess there is a Caesar there. There was a Caesar in Planet of the Apes.
I'm gonna skyfall it to see if I.
And we're just beating around the bush of Caesar from Rome. I don't know.
Let's see if there's another one. Am I missing one that I am unaware of? Okay, so really quick, why don't you tell us what we're going to be doing on the podcast today?
Are we doing from Fallout? Oh, there's so many Caesars.
Oh, it was Fallout. Yeah, no, I thought it was Warhammer. Yeah, Caesar. Yeah, that's the one. It wasn't. It's the Fallout one. I can show it really quick. Hang on.
Is there a new Fallout one?
No, it was on there. Card preview. This little guy right there.
Yeah.
He was
okay.
Yeah. Face Commander. Yep.
All right.
For new players wise,
so today are we?
Go ahead. We're only doing the gods, so let's go ahead. You explain.
You're right. Okay, so main topic is going to be, we're going to be talking about the Theros gods. There's about 22 of them, Scryfall states, and just talking about if they're good and or bad commanders to build for new players. The original idea was to be going through and just talking about commanders that you would build for new players. We were going to both pick 5.
And this is a shout out to Tad for kind of throwing the idea out. Got to give that shout out there. Because we like.
And then this morning
outs.
I was like, there's so many good new commanders for the gods. Have you not noticed that? And Adam's like, I am you now, and I don't prep at all. I just show up. And I make shit up.
We switch places. Is that what?
That's what.
Except I have 3 pages of notes for this damn thing. So lay off me. I'm starving.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't prep at all. I just went. Yeah, I know Theros gods. We can talk about that shit. But that's what we're gonna be. We're gonna be focusing on the Theros gods because it's an interesting angle, and they have some really good. I think they have a lot of solid commanders for newer players to build for them. And so does that, not just me. Commander Smiths think that. And so that's what the main topic is on. Are we going to talk about the rules change as well?
Oh, I did write that down. I didn't pull up the rules.
In your 3 pages of notes?
No, it is not. I was just going to talk about it. And
okay, so there is a rule change now that's coming with Foundations about
damage.
About damage and how you're applying it within combat.
Well, should we just burn that out right now? Just like
Ken, why did you say it like that? Burn it out?
I don't know.
Is that a saying?
Let's just get it right now. Let's get it.
It. Okay. Well, you're changing what you said, and I understand what you're saying now.
Well, and we also have Stump the Smith Savant. Sorry, I kind of interrupted your whole thing there.
That's fine. And Stump. And who's the stumper? AJ?
AJ. Yep. So we got AJ for the stump, and this is week 3. So if Lowry does not get stumped this week, we will add another card to the ante. So just a FYI, this is the card that's up there now. It's 3 Tree City Proxy, foil proxy there. And again, if we get to the 3rd level, this little guy, Ragavan, is going to be up for grabs. Okay.
I got to get there, though.
Yeah, you got to get there. So what was the rule change? I mean, just summarizing it, isn't it basically like they changed it from who worded it really nice on the Discord?
Before, essentially, the change is if there's you used to be able to kind of choose how your damage was applied to blocking creatures. So I attack with 1 creature, somebody blocks, right? They can block with 1, 2, or 3 or whatever amount of creatures that they want. And you were able to go like, I want to deal 3 damage to this 3/3, that'll die. I want to deal 2 damage to this and anything left over to that 3rd creature, and that's not going to die. And then there used to be like that phase where there could be reactions of like, oh, I'll giant growth this creature to make it live.
Yeah.
And essentially what's going on is the player who's attacking can then readjust how the damage is being applied. So if you make the 3/3 a 6/6 and you go, oh, well, I'm just going to deal all the 6 damage to that first creature and the other 2 creatures live, I want to make sure that one dies.
Right.
You can do that now.
So basically what it's doing is it's giving the opportunity for the blocker. They have to decide what they're going to do, and then they're done. They can't go and react to what they're doing. So it's like if you wanted to add that 3+3 giant growth to the creature, one of the creatures that is blocking, you have to do it before the damage is actually dealt. So you go, okay, well, I'm going to put it on this creature. Or you say, no, I'm good. These are the 2 I'm blocking with. If you say, now you pass it to them to decide what they're going to do, you can't change anything at that point. You can't add another spell onto the stack, then the person that's attacking that's how I read it, right? I mean, is that pretty much
I mean that's essentially what it is it's kind of taking away the combat trick aspect of blocking.
yeah.
That just seems what it is happening at that point.
Yeah.
And it is a newer player thing. It probably is taking out a step.
Right.
That's
what Ren is saying.
I'm indifferent on it.
Players.
I'm just gonna have to get used to the change a little bit.
Yeah. So
because I mean, for us as commander, like there is just not a ton of combat tricks that we're running.
Right. This doesn't happen very often, but
right.
So I'm wondering when this. I have a feeling that we won't. It's gonna burn us a couple times, I think, before we actually.
It might.
But it doesn't happen that often, like you said. Like it's.
I think this is much more of a change for like limited.
Yeah.
Like pre-releases, stuff like that. I think that's when it's gonna come up a lot more because I liked my combat tricks when I went to a pre-release, so. That is where I think it's going to be more affected.
Basically, it just makes my Blanca deck that much better because then I know what they're actually doing. Well, they're normally not multi-blocking. It's what's with multiple blockers is kind of what the example that they gave. Right. So, but yeah, so that was just kind of
go check out the article. I would say.
Oh yeah, I should probably link
read
that.
it. I've seen some other people do some videos on it, stuff like that, and just check it out. We are trying to make you aware of it that is a change.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that huge of a deal.
Yep. Okay, so then a couple of things while you were gone. I did do the Secret Lair video, so we do have the Marvel Secret Lair that's going to be coming out next Monday, so a week from today. Make sure you have your calendars set, your timer, alarms, and all that stuff. But I did throw out a poll for who's excited for this. So we had 171 votes. That's a good amount of poll amount of crowd that we had actually do some voting there. So we actually had 37% of the people voted saying they're skipping this one, which you guys suck because Marvel is awesome, and especially X-Men for me. I mean, that's our childhood. No, I'm just kidding. You guys don't suck. It's just a preference thing. We got 24% of the vote went to buying a few of them. 27% went to buying the whole set. And that's probably where you're falling, just buying the whole set of these, right?
Yeah, I would like a whole set of them.
Yep. And then buying all, maxing out, meaning times 5 of every single one, you get 12% of the vote. So overall, people buying it, what is that? 40, 51, 63% of the vote. I guess I could have taken the 37%.
Math.
Yeah.
I'd rather add them
63% people are going to be picking this one up. I think this one is going to sell out really quickly. If you guys want a breakdown of the video, I do have that linked in our YouTube channel as well. What are your thoughts? Because you weren't here, so I wasn't able to kind of... Were you able to look at the cards in those?
They seemed pretty sweet. I thought they were really good packages, and like the art seems awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the legendary creatures are good.
I think there's relatively good ones in there. I think 3 out of the 5
I don't think any of them are like, oh my god, this is busted. Right. I think they did a really good job with it, similar to like Street Fighter, where nothing is crazy, but seems cool.
Yeah. No, I think you got Captain America doing the equipment stuff, which is going to be interesting, being able to unattach that stuff and hit people in the face or whatever, take out stuff. I think Black Panther is the one that's going to be secretly like used quite a bit because he's only a 2-drop and he does a lot of crap. The one that I was most excited for was Storm, so I think I'm going to probably try to build that one.
Okay. Yeah, I think Storm seems to be what the people are the most excited for.
So it feels like the Chun-Li of when we had Street Fighter, because Chun-Li seemed like the biggest one. But Wolverine seems interesting because we have it's basically a fight commander, so it's kind of cool there. And he brought regeneration on new cards, which you don't see regeneration, but it makes sense.
Not often
with Wolverine there. So the Marvel drop is full of heaters. Or they said haters. I was like, what? But okay, so that was the Secret Lair stuff. I'm gonna hit the tags really quick so we can kind of get to the main part of the episode here. So really quick, there's 4 ways to support the Commander Smiths. one of the ways to become a patron, you get on the Discord. We have giveaways that will be getting started back up here pretty soon. We give away you get proxies each month if you're at a certain tier level of that. So there's benefits to becoming a patron. You can also support us by checking out our store. Okay, I finally got the store set up on eBay. So there's actually a tab if you go to my eBay, which I almost want to change the name now because I got the store set up, but you do ebay.com and then it's /str, which is store / Commander Smith's Adam, and then there'll be a little block there. So we actually had some sales with Smith swag there. We'll start to get that up and running now that I finally got that figured out. So that also helps us out. You guys can get like these mugs. Larry, do you have your red one with you? No, you don't have the red one.
No, I lost it. I don't know.
But the mugs,
I haven't seen it in like
the
a
metal
month or two.
tokens. I'll get the play mats up here pretty soon. And then we'll get the t-shirts going again once we get that going there. So that's one way. Another way, free way for you guys is just jump on YouTube. Watch us on YouTube if you can. All our stuff is on there. Basically, every podcast is the best way to watch us. Instead of listening, try to watch us on there. Tons of videos we have on there as well. And then also you can donate live. We haven't decided what we're going to do with that Malort stuff, but you can donate live. So those are 4 ways. We have our goals right now is we're very, very close. I think we're going to be just a little short this month, but we want to get cameras because we are going to start recording live game. Not live. We're going to be doing game in real life games. There we go. So we're going to be doing that hopefully with the new sets and all that coming out and some other things. So that is our big goal. Everything that you guys give to us goes right back into the show. So that's the other thing there. So I think that's it. We're in a bunch of places. You know, that's all I have. So should we
type us in
Commander Smith?
You'll find it. Or your favorite place.
Let's jump on over to the gods. Hang on, me get some of these tabs gone. Boop, boop. And we are down to that. All right. So, are you a god? Do we want to do a little bit of like summary beforehand, or just kind of go as we go?
Let's kind of go with what we were quick doing beforehand.
Okay. So what's the whole idea behind this? Like, Tad, the reason why he brought it up, he was like, "Hey, I have a buddy, my best friend. I kind of want to get him into Commander, and like you guys should really think about doing like an episode on like new commanders." And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of funny." I was like, "We might have done that, or we had thoughts of doing it, but we never finalized it."
We might have. I remember talking about like Tatiova It's been a while.
Yeah, so it's been a little bit, but then my boys are getting to the age where I want to start getting them in the Commander. Like I asked them, "Are you guys interested?" And they're like, "Yeah." So this is kind of fresh on my mind too. I've been trying to think of a good commander to keep them in the game but not get too complicated. So I think that's one of the biggest things, right? Yeah. Is that what you're about to say?
Like, well, and I think because part of it too is like I think we don't have any measuring stick for this, but I half assume that we have listeners are kind of like dads a little bit too in that range. I feel like that might be a bit of our demographic, along with and so like you likely percentage wise, if you're listening to us, probably have a kid that is starting to get into Magic because you are,
right?
And so I think this is kind of starting to be a list of, hey, you could kind of build this for your kid to play with. And you can make it as annoying or not as annoying that you're going to be playing against as well. But like, this is more of like a teaching thing.
Right. But I would also say not only the kid aspect, like think of our play group, which, ebbs and flows, gets bigger. We have new people that come in wanting to learn, because we play it and all that. And like, hey, I want to learn. This is a good jumping off spot for people that are just starting out. So I think there's a lot of things, and you had the great idea. I mean, I'm going to give you props on that with the gods. Like I didn't even think of the gods. I was having specific ones I was going after. I'm like, I want to build this deck for Drake because his name's Drake. So I want to build a Drake deck. That's always been my thing, that I wanted to do that.
And I think you should still do that.
I'm definitely going to do that. But when you brought this up, you're like, I think the gods might be a good thing to go after. I was like, that's actually a really good point because there's a lot to it. One, you're dealing with devotion, and it kind of teaches newer players the mana symbols. Like, hey, you need to have this amount of them on the field for this to be a creature. Like, I think that helps a little bit. Then there's like a goal that they're trying to get. Another thing is they're indestructible. That's one of the things that sucks about commanders sometimes is you get a commander that's pretty hated and get it out and it gets killed all the time. Well, as a new player, they might get frustrated. They keep playing their commander and it keeps getting killed. With it being indestructible, I think that helps a little bit, like.
And so and as a, not just for like it being the gods, that is a big upside, but in general, the idea of a commander that kind of protects itself for a beginner is important because that allows them to play with their commander a lot more if it's not being removed.
Yeah.
So indestructible, I think, is perfect for what we're doing here. All of them are going to be indestructible. So
yeah,
there's that.
I think the other thing too is it being a god kind of gets to me. It's that whole like commander thing. Like this is an all powerful creature. This thing is what your whole deck is based off of. And so it being this big force that really can't be. Now they're going to get, as they go along, and they're going to realize they build other decks and they're like, what the fuck? Why isn't this indestructible? This should all the commanders should be indestructible, but like it's going to put this.
They might get a little greedy after this, but
for beginners, for getting them used to the game, like I think this is good. So I think what we are going to do here is we're going to go through all 22 of these and kind of just say if these are good ones for it, what are some of the good mechanics with it, why it's good, maybe why it's bad for beginners, because there's a bunch of different ways you can build all of these, but kind of give you ideas on all this.
Some other general parameters that I was kind of going for before I was even making my list was like, you don't want the commander to be too overpowered, like the ones where you don't want it to be a Traxa, because if they're going to sit down and be a new player, everybody's just going to kill the commander, kill that player. It's just player removal at that point because you have such a good commander. So you don't really want those commanders for a newer player because they're not going to be able to handle like the group.
Yeah.
They're trying to kind of focus on themselves a bit. So having something that's too powerful and too noticeable can really hurt them in that regard. The other thing to kind of avoid is too many triggers.
Yes.
And the example before is like a landfall deck. When one land comes down and you go trigger, that's too many triggers for a new player.
A very good point. Yep.
And so like teaching them that land is important is a good thing, and we'll get to that. But making something with a billion triggers on it can be really hard for newer. Like another one would be like your black-white Tacit deck that like has death triggers.
Yeah,
that has a shit ton of triggers.
There's too many things to follow on that. Tad made another good point here is no tutors and counter spells for new players. That's a good point. Well, because tutors
not only that, you don't want them to know.
Right.
You don't want them to.
But the tutors, they might not know what to go get. They're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. Counter spells, they don't know when to counter. So it's just countering to counter, and so I think that's a good point, which if you're in our play group, you're probably not going to have either of those either. So it's fine there. Did you have more notes on that?
And one last thing that kind of goes with the protection part, but you want kind of easier to cast commanders.
Yes.
And so you want to be able to cast the commander. You want it to be in at least midway through the game. And that's the other part of protection, is that it'll stay on the field, and so they have more interaction with it. But if they're not able to cast the commander in a reasonable amount of time, again, they won't really get to know what their commander is like. And so, number one, lower casting costs. I would say, in my opinion, under five or under at least. And then also 1 to 2 colors. If you start going 3+ colors, the color fixing could be like something a bit for them to move into when they get a little bit more better.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
More better.
More better. Well, no, it's the mono fixing is really a tough thing when you get to 3, 4, 5.
Right.
You know.
Right. And generally, as a newer player, if you're building them the deck, that's a little bit different, but they don't have as many cards, and so they're not going to have the fetches. They're not going to have whatever dual lands are available. Like their mana is going to be bad, and so sticking to 1 or 2 colors is decently important.
Yep. One last thing I do want to say with the devotion stuff is it also adds a for this specifically. You're saying in general for commanders, like for new players and stuff. When we're talking about the gods here with the devotion, it's almost like a goal that they're trying to get, you know, especially as a new player. They're trying to activate it into a creature. And so I think that's adding another little element to it. It's making them want to play more cards and try to get it. Oh, well, I can get my Athreos to be a creature if I just play this spell or play this creature or this enchantment or whatever. So, excuse me. So what it's doing is it's making them play more cards to achieve a goal, a mini goal that's in the game. It doesn't mean they win the game. It's just like, hey,
you're right.
Like my creature turns into something, and at the same point, they're learning to play cards and get their stuff out and learning what different cards are. So, I choked on my stuff. All right. Is there anything else? I'm trying to see if there was anything else I had in my notes before we get into this.
I'm good.
Okay. Checking the color pairing. Yep, that's what you just went over. And yep. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Let's go through all these commanders here. So we first have Athreos, God of Passage. I'll read this one. We'll just go back and forth. This is 1 white and 1 black, indestructible 5/4. The devotion to white and black is less than 7. That's what normally the doubles are there. Whenever another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless your opponent pays through the. Do we want to read them all or just say the main parts of these? I guess is probably
main parts.
Yep.
I think we can do mana cost and main part.
Yep. Okay. So whenever a creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless you pay. This one's I think good. It's a 3-drop, which is nice. It could get a little. I don't think you would want it to build it more of as a sacrifice deck, which you would normally build as a experienced player. As a beginner, I mean, how would you go about this? Would you more so that this is kind of extra protection for your creatures? Maybe is how. It would
so
go?
I mean, how I would see this. Not that I think I like this as a
build
deck.
up.
If I'm going through my list, it's 3 mana, so it's easier to get out. Only 2 colors, and that's for everything. But the big thing is for me is like, is this too powerful? You know what I mean? Because we can always build it to wherever we feel like it's going to fit the newer player. Because I do agree, if you are making a lot of choices in that regard, like newer players generally don't want to get rid of their stuff.
Right.
And so making it a sacrifice deck, I can see them struggling with it.
Yes. So that's where I think it's confusing, but where I think this would work is make it a creature heavy deck and doing board wipe type things. Because it's one-sided in a way. You're getting you're board wiping. It's pretty easy. They're destroying the board.
Yeah.
And then you're getting your creatures back unless player X wants to lose 3 life per creature going. So I think that'd be a really straightforward, easy deck to do. And don't go off
and the other
sacrifice.
thing that I like about it is that it forces them to choose a player, because oftentimes newer players don't want to really interact. They just want to do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And build, and they tend not to like really interact with the board or affect other people, because they don't want to make anybody mad at them or feel bad that they're picking on anybody. And this essentially forces them to interact on the board when they are being interacted with. If you're not wrathing, you know what I mean? They could still be sitting back and they can block their ass off and get those creatures back or start affecting the game.
Yeah.
So I like it in both those regards, especially if you're not doing like a sacrifice style deck.
I wouldn't do a sacrifice with a new player. As an experienced player, sacrifice is the way you go with Athreos with that.
Yeah. And I think, and so the biggest problem is, does this have a label of being too good? I think it's been around long enough and forgotten enough that that's maybe not on there anymore. But 10 years ago, it probably would have been.
Right.
So,
all right, why don't you hit us up with the next Athreos? This one's a little higher on the CMC though.
All right, Athreos Shrouded Veiled. It's 4 in a white and a black, so 6 total. It's a 4/7. At the beginning of your end step, put a coin counter on another target creature. Whenever a creature with a coin counter on it dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control.
I think this one's it's a lot of CMC. It does give you protection on your creatures, but there isn't much going on with this one. So I'm not as big of a fan of this one.
Right. 6 mana is over, like I said earlier, I'd prefer 5 or less. 6 ends up being like mid to late game. Especially in black and white. You're not going to power it out as consistently.
Right. And it's slow in the fact that you get 6 and you're putting 1 returning counter to it each turn. So there isn't like a board wipe effect that works. It's more of the sacrifice. I think it's a little too much. This one I wouldn't.
And if you're trying to, and I think trying to double the trigger ends up being too much for a newer player as well, to like make it better, where you're like, hey, I'm going to do a coin, but then I'm going to Strionic Resonator that trigger and then get another one.
There's too much going on there. Yeah.
Right. That's probably too much going on. So it's too slow, too expensive. I think we're both on board with that. Like I wouldn't build that for a new player.
Next one is Afara, God of Polis? You got that button? Did I say it all right? Polis?
You're right. No. Yeah. But I'm hitting it.
I can't even read.
It's 4 CMC with white and blue, 6/5, and it has a beginning of each upkeep. If you had a creature enter the battlefield under your control last turn, draw a card. This is great. I think this one's really good for new players because it's playing creatures out, and it's at the beginning of each upkeep, so you can kind of introduce flash effects of playing creatures at instant speed, so they can kind of learn that part, where it's like, oh, well, normally you only play on your turn, but in this case you want to play some creatures on other people's turns so you can get the draw at the beginning of the next upkeep, or what is it, next upkeep under draw. So I like this one. It's a 4, so it meets that criteria of what you were saying with the 5 CMC or less. It's getting 2 colors in there. It's drawing built in on this, and so really you're just making a deck that's all creatures and flash speed creatures. So I really like this one. What do you think about?
Yeah, so this was actually the card that first started making me think that all the gods were good.
It's one of the starred ones regard. I have. The one where I'm like, this is a really good one.
So like, because number one, I agree with you. It's like teaching Flash. That's that next step of like interacting on other people's turns, which might be a little advanced, but also it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your opponents are doing.
Right, you're just
all it's teaching creature. Them is to make sure that they're paying attention and playing on other people's turns. But also, this card teaches how important drawing is, and I think me and you both agree that drawing cards and ramping are really, really important. I think everybody knows that, but a new player needs to learn that, and so this does both of those things, as in I think it's doing a very core thing in drawing cards, and then the next step of, oh, there's other people's turns that I can be doing stuff on. I don't have to only do it on my turn.
Yep.
And so I think both of them are doing well. And if they're not doing it on other people's turns, they're still casting something on their turn, and they're still going to get an advantage in that regard.
Yep.
So
I think this is
a great one.
One of the top ones. I have stars next to the ones I think that are perfect for it, and this is one of those. So, okay. All right, next one, Lowry.
This one's going to be Erebos Bleak Hearted. This is 4 mana in the black, and whenever another creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card, and then you can pay 1 in a black, sack a creature. Target creature gets -2/-1 until end of turn. And so
it's our first mono color commander or god.
Yeah, so 3 and a black. It's under the CMC. One color makes it really easy in that regard. But I do see this one probably being a problem, as in new players don't like paying life, and new players don't like sacrificing their own stuff.
Right.
This might be like a second deck for a new player to teach them that it is okay to do those things, but you don't necessarily want to create those like bad feelings for a very new player.
Yep.
That makes sense. So
I think that you're using sack synergies a lot with this, so it's a lot of creatures that when they die, they do something, because you're going to also try to take, like, it has it all built in on the card, you know, the tapping the 2, sacrificing a creature and kind of killing theirs if you can. So there's a lot going on with this, and I think you're right. I think it's the next level. I don't think this one's a great one for beginners. You could. It's a mono black, but I think it gets a little too complicated.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is the next Erebos, the original Erebos, God of the Dead. So this one's also 4 CMC. Opponents can't gain life, and this is just pay 2 and 2 life to draw a card. I think this one's pretty basic. I don't think there's a lot going on here that would really entice people to want to keep playing it. You know, I think it's a good card for decks, you know, in general. I just put it in my new the new Scarecrow dude, Dreadmaw deck, because he's an enchantment and a creature, but whatever. It's good, but I don't know if this is one you'd want to build around for a new player, because there's just not a lot going on there. Just, you know, there's no theme. Like, what are they getting excited for? Drawing? Paying the 2 life and drawing? I don't think they would necessarily want to do that. Again, like you mentioned before, new players don't get the paying life thing. And I can give that example of my old neighbor, Mike. He did not get the idea of fetch lands and shock lands. He's like, why would you hurt yourself to get these lands when you could just be playing a basic land? I'm like, well, but you're fixing your mana so that you're playing more efficiently. Yeah, but why? I don't have to hurt you because you're hurting yourself. I'm like, no, these are like the best lands in the game. Like, this is how you do it. If you don't have duels, you get shocks, you use your fetches. I don't get how you can hurt yourself. The thing is you still win the game if you're at 1 life. That's what a lot of people, the newer players, don't get. They don't want to lose any life. They want to win the game with 40 life or more. So, so I just don't think this one's a great one for that.
This might actually be like a decent secondary one. It is pretty simple, like you're saying. And so also in building for newer players, you do want it to be exciting. Like, it needs to be good enough, and this just might not be there.
Yeah.
When it comes to, they're going to struggle on drawing the cards, and that's the best part of the card. So, I agree.
Yep.
This is kind of a whatever one.
Yep.
Next one, Heliod, God of the Sun, 3 and a white. Other creatures you control have vigilance, and then you can pay 2 and 2 white, create a 2 on white cleric enchantment creature token. And in my opinion, I put this in the same regard as the last Erebos. Other creatures you control have vigilance is boring.
Right.
I mean, it's okay. Like, it can kind of teach. I like it better than your opponents can't gain life.
Right. I was gonna say, this teaches the vigilance part. At least, it makes it so that they can attack. You know, that's the biggest thing with new players too, is they don't want to, like you're saying, attack to make people mad, but then they also, well, I don't want to lose any life, so I should keep my stuff back. Well, this is telling you, well, if that player doesn't have any creatures, all out attack, all your stuff has vigilance. It just stays. So that's the only thing I would say with that. Other than, I agree with everything you're saying. The only thing I would say is this one teaches the vigilance part of being more aggressive.
Well, I think that's a really good point in what you're saying, is like, it allows them to be aggressive and still allows them to be defensive, because that you're right that newer players are hesitant to attack for the same reason that we talked about with Athreos. They don't want to really interact with the board and get anybody upset with them or like start getting focused on. They don't want people to go after them. And this allows them to at least be aggressive and not get necessarily picked on.
Yeah.
Or like, they're worried about the crackback. This allows it not to happen as much. So I do agree in that regard. I would put this above Erebos.
Yep. Just above that, just a little bit. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Next is Heliod Sun Crowned. This one is a 3-drop 5/5. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. Another target creature gains life link until end of turn with the 2, 1 white and 1 colorless. I guess this is, I'd rather, we're talking about the gods here, so I don't want to say I'd rather play the other life game, but that's a 3-color. I guess this is a good one for life game, but I still think this is in the same line, maybe a little bit better though, because then you're doing a theme. I guess it's a little bit better than the last Heliod because you're gaining life. You're deciding which creatures are going to get pumped up. The gaining the life part, the deck is going to be built around the gaining the life. So at the very least, you're gaining, resources in that your life gets bigger. So especially with new players, I think they would like that. And then giving something lifelink is also nice because then whatever you're pumping up, or even this guy, you can gain a big chunks of life back. So I actually, I'm talking myself back into it. I was like, nah. And I'm like, you can actually build a good life gain deck with this, with just being in white.
And so this is where I would say I think this is a good one for new players. But the problem is I think it's probably too good. This one has the combo potential that everybody knows with God damn it. It's an artifact creature that you can pull 1/1 counters off of it to deal 1 damage. You can give it lifelink, and then it's infinite machine gun the table essentially.
Oh, you're talking about like Hangerback or
the other one.
What the fuck is its name?
Yeah. So that one. But also with a life gain deck per se like this, you got you're probably going to end up having a lot of triggers. And so
Walking Ballista. Thank you, Renshai.
Walking Ballista.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so to me, this one I think is a problem because people know about Walking Ballista, and the newer player is going to have to keep track of. They're going to have to move their dice. They're going to have to go, a creature came into play, gain a life, gain a life, gain a life. I got to put 1/1 counters on something. I'm just going to do it here. That to me ends up being probably too much for a new player. So I would avoid this one in my personal opinion.
Well, you could make the deck so you don't have all those in there. Just make it more of
like a lifelink deck.
Lifelink, or just because what you're saying is that multiple life. You're thinking of the one.
I mean, there's a Soul Sisters,
Essence Wardens and all that stuff where it
right.
You gain a life every time, whatever. Yeah, I get it though, but you're going back to what you said.
I think you'd have to bring it way down and make sure that you're not having too many triggers.
Yep.
Because it doesn't just have to be whenever a creature comes into play. Like, there's only so many of those cards. But if you turn it into a lifelink deck, that probably slows it down a bit for that. And also introducing +1/+1 counters is good. So it's kind of like a double layer that we were talking about earlier. Like having 1/1 counters along with lifelink is kind of teaching two different things. Newer players do enjoy lifelink or gaining life, from what my experience has been. I still probably put this as a no for newer players, just from that regard of they might get picked on. So
I can see that. All right.
That's where I'm
at. Next one. That's on you.
I wrote as God of Victory 2 and a red and a white. Creatures you control have menace, so it has to be blocked by 2 or more creatures, and prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. It's a really good card, right? But building it for a new player, I think it'd be wasted, if that makes sense.
I don't think they're gonna like the attacks. Again, what we were talking about before,
the crackback part.
So I think
I think they're gonna worry about that, even though this allows you to be super aggressive.
Yeah,
I think that's where it's at. I think maybe if you know that the person you're building it for is more of an aggressive play style type person, and they just like to swing away a little bit, like if they're, wild card,
Right.
if they're like, I'm just going to do something on the table. Like if they're that type of personality, Iroas would be really good for them.
You know what might be a way to determine this is like new players level 1 and then the next level 2. Like I think this is a level 2 commander.
Yeah.
The next
I
step
agree.
up.
Okay. I dig it.
Okay. Karametra, God of Harvest. So this is green white. So it's a 5. This is right at your borderline of the CMCs. Get rid of the devotion thing. But whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search your library for a forest or a plains card, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. This is one that I also have starred because what this is it's teaching you to play creatures, and you're getting a benefit by ramping yourself and seeing how ramp actually helps you out. So I think you can make this a big fat creature deck. You could do tons of stuff. Like I think there's a lot of. I built this deck way back in the day, and it's good. You're ramping yourself while playing creatures, and it's built on your commander. So I really like this one. I think this one's good for beginners because. I don't know what your win con is. You figure that out as you go, but you're just playing lots of creatures. You're ramping yourself at the same time. So even if there's board wipes, you're able to get your commander back out. Like, well, he's indestructible, so we don't have to worry about that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, rebuild your hand.
Right.
So you could go complicated with this, where you were saying with the landfall. I think that's what I did when I built this deck a little bit.
Yeah.
And so this could
and
be.
I would avoid a major landfall theme in this. Like I don't think it's bad to have one or two cards in there, so you see like, oh, there's even more of a bonus for lands. But for me, like I agree, this teaches how important lands are within the game. It also teaches that lands have certain types potentially. So like the forest or the plains part. It teaches potentially the difference between casting creatures and creatures coming into play. So you can be like, no, that token doesn't trigger this. It's when you're casting this creature that happens. But it's all still very simple and put into place. Like it's smooth. You don't have to track. That's a trigger. That's a trigger. That's a trigger. It's a nuance of the game that's good to teach.
Yeah.
And so I agree. This is a perfect one. My only problem with it is probably just being like at 5 mana.
It's right at your
So
border.
but it's not a real problem. I think it's a really good one for new players.
Yep. All right. Next one.
Keranos, God of Storms, 3 and a blue and a red. And so reveal the first card you draw on each of your turns. Whenever you reveal a land card this way, draw a card. Whenever you reveal a non-land card this way, Keranos deals 3 damage to target creature or player. First card you draw on each of your turns. Okay. I probably put this as low. I probably wouldn't build this for a new player.
Nope. That's level 2, level 3. I don't even know if
I just don't think this is potentially for newer players.
Because it's only on your turn. Like if it was every turn,
the first card you draw each turn,
then you could kind of teach the using instants and stuff like that to be able to draw more and do damage and stuff. But it's only on your turn, so I put it slow, and it's also the 5 CMC too. So.
Yep. It's slow. I don't think it has enough of an impact. So like also you cast it, next turn it happens.
Yeah.
So I don't think it has much going for it. I would skip this one for a new player.
Oh, I was pouring a beer. Hang on, let me scroll down. I got this sweet beer or breakfast stout. Breakfast. Let's see if I can get. There we go.
Breakfast stouts are pretty good.
Modest Brewing, Minneapolis. So I had one already.
Modest is solid too.
Not today, but I had it over the weekend, and it's delicious. I love the stouts,
I'm gonna have to try it.
But it's 8%, so woo-hoo-hoo.
You're fine.
All right. Clothis, God of Destiny, 3-drop with green and red. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a land, you add 1 green or 1 red. Otherwise, gain 2 life and do 2 damage. So what I wrote is you're at least learning to deal with people's graveyards. So it kind of can teach you that. But I don't know if I like this one as much for a new player. I'm not saying I don't like this card, obviously. I just don't know if there's enough going on for this one to really like, or players to like it. Because again, you're gaining the 2 life if you're not hitting a land, but then you have to do 2 damage to each opponent. So I mean, that's not even that big of a deal. The thing I realized with new players, and not even new, like people that have been playing for years, but not like really advanced players, a lot of players like to do their stuff. So this is the beginning of your pre-combat. Okay, so this would work in the right turn. I was thinking it was in the post-combat main phase. A lot of players don't like doing stuff in the second main phase. You know, newer players.
They just want to be able to clean up and I'm done.
Yep, I attacked, nothing happened or whatever happened, and then I'm done with my turn. This one is the pre-combat main phase. So that does work there. I just think there's a little bit too much going on with this one for it to be enticing for a new player. I don't know. Like, you're dealing with people's graveyards. I do like that it's a 3-drop. It's ramping a little bit or life gain and 2 damage to players. So I don't think there's enough happening for somebody to be like, oh, this is a deck I want to build around, you know? What are your thoughts?
And I agree with your feeling of just like, I think this is outside. I don't think it's a bad one. I think they could pilot it. But I do agree. It's maybe a 2, but it's probably on the outside. And the other reason as well is most people kind of want it to go within the theme of dealing damage, like everybody's taking damage, and that can build up to a lot of triggers. And so like, I don't think this is bad, but I wouldn't do it. How about that?
Right. Not for a new player.
Yeah, not for a new player. All right, next one. Prufix, God of the Horizons. This is 3 and a green and a blue. You have no maximum hand size. If unused mana could empty from your mana pool, that mana becomes colorless instead. I do really like the part of no maximum hand size. New players really like. They hate discarding cards.
Right. Yeah.
Hate discarding cards. Yeah. Like, I drew them. I want them.
I don't. I'd rather not draw 7 extra cards if I have to discard 7. I have to pick.
I'll just wait until
7.
I'm down to 0 and then draw 7 again. You're like, no. But they do really, really like no maximum hand size parts. So like that's why Reliquary Tower is everywhere. And the artifact version of it. But the part of this that I don't like, it's not that I don't like it, but the unused mana part. What are you feeling on that?
That's what I was gonna say. Is like, love the non-maximum hand size. I actually, I think the being able to tap your mana and then it stays there is fantastic. But for a new player, that's confusing as hell. It's like, okay, now I have to keep track of this mana that I didn't use. Yeah, it's that whole thing that's an extra thing, and they're also having
the tracking is going to be the hardest part,
right? And then planning things out. Okay, I have 7 extra mana now. Okay, so now I can use this for this, and I think it could get a little overwhelming. I think it's great. I do have it starred as a good one for a new player, but as you were reading it and going through the second ability, I think this is a level 2. I think this is once they get a handle of the game a little bit better. I think this is a good one for that.
And I think it's even a potential problem on accuracy, not necessarily within a game if nobody knows it, but like, when does mana empty from your pool? Like, it happens every phase, and then at the end of your turn, a new player is not going to know that.
Right.
And then you got to hope that somebody at the table does know that. And then again, they're talking about floating mana, and trying to track it ends up being really difficult, I think, for them. So
I mean,
I put this as a no.
Yeah, when we play games and there's floating mana, you're always the finger guy. You're like, all right, this is how many you have left. Burp, 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 burp. Like, you're gonna have to have.
It just speeds up the game, in my opinion.
Well, it helps. It's good that you put your hands out and you're like, all right, here, all right, you have 10 left. Nope, you've used this now. Now you're down to this. Like, I think it really helps. You're gonna have to use a dice here, and I think it just gets, like you said, I think this one's a little too complicated. All right, next we're to the last 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 left here. All right, Mogus, God of Slaughter. So this is 4 CMC with a black and a red. It's 4 total. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Mogus deals 2 damage to that player unless they sacrifice a creature. This is the one where, like you mentioned earlier on one of the other ones, I think this pisses off people more than it helps for a new player. It's nice that it's doing it to opponents, but I think when Jeremy plays this deck, it's the remove the player type of thing. Once he starts getting going, and you're playing this deck is built on playing a lot of cards that are stacks type things that are hurting on people's upkeeps and all that stuff. So to me, this one just feels like you're a target too much, and you don't want that as a new player. You don't want to be your first deck you build and you hate it because everybody kills you. You're the first one out every single time. That gets you out of Commander very quickly when you're just like, well, this sucks. I lose, and I'm always the first one out. So to me, that's where this one sits.
And I agree with everything you're saying, along with like putting emphasis, like, number one, I don't think a new player, even most people will forget that trigger. It's not their card. And so it's on the new player to say, hey, did you pay too light, or did you lose 2 damage, or or sack the creature? And I think that's a lot for them.
Yep.
Secondarily, doing that is no different than, hey, did you pay the 1 or the 2? Like, you're just annoying. You poke, hate. And that's not good. Like you're saying, for a new player, they're gonna get picked on. So let's just say this is a no-go. I think again, it's a good one. Also, I think the deck lends itself to a lot of triggers, or too many triggers. So like, did you do this? Take 2 damage. Or during your upkeep, this, and this actually happened. Like, that's the way Mogus ends up being built a bit. So I think it's just too much.
All right. Next one, Lowry.
Ilya, God of the Hunt, the first one. It's 3 and a green. Other creatures you control gain trample, and then it's 4 mana, and target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I don't like that ability. It's rarely going to get played, and they're not going to want to do it. But all your creatures having trample really lends itself to a mono green huge creature deck.
Yep.
I think people love that. That's what I wrote. Like, it's a crawl worm deck, right?
I know it's a Lowry signature. I wrote Big Dumb Creature Lowry signature.
Big Dumb Creatures.
When we were kids deck. Like, this is if we had this commander, this is your commander. This is what you
I think that's the way to do it. Like, I think people really like big creatures that are cheap, and you're giving them trample, and I think this would be a great one for that regard. Like,
I agree. There isn't much more I'd add to that. Like, that's it. It's easy. It's mono green, so you don't have to worry about the color fixing as much, and giving the trample, and it's big dumb creatures, and you get a payoff from the big dumb creatures in the battlefield. So, I love it. Great for a new player. All right, Nylea Keen-Eyed, another 4-drop, 1 green and 3 colorless. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less. Then it has 3, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it in your graveyard. I don't think this is as good as the other one, but it does help with the CMC stuff. Makes your creatures cost less. You don't like it?
I don't like it.
But don't compare it to the other one. But like, if this was the only one you had, I think it's pretty decent having creatures cost a little bit less, and then it has the built-in 3 to try to get creatures into your hand a little bit. I mean, it's not amazing. All right. Did I have anything else?
Would you build this for a new player?
No.
I wouldn't either. I mean, for me, like the creature spells casting one less, like you're gonna be super creature heavy, which is nice.
But let's go back. Like, yeah, giving your big dumb creatures trample, I guess that helps. But they're the same CMC. Like you said, you don't ever use this 4 ability off the first Nylea. This one you might actually use, to reveal the top card.
Yeah, I would if I didn't have any mana, like if I ran out of creatures.
Right.
But the problem that I see here is that creature spells cost 1 less to cast. So I see a new player running their hand out as quick as possible, which is something that you don't want them doing, right? And so it depends on how you're building it or whatever, but also at 4 mana, it's not really ramp.
Yeah.
It's it's not bad, but again, you're only revealing the top card for a creature with the ability, which is 3, very limiting.
That's kind of a lot.
Even if you're all creatures, you're still going to hit a land 30% of the time, like 30 to 40 percent of the time.
It feels like feel bads right there. If you
right, you're paying a lot for that. So I just, it's not doing enough for what's going on.
I can agree with that. I can take that. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Farika, God of Affliction, 1 in a black and a green. You could pay a black and a green, exile target creature card from a graveyard. Its owner puts a 1/1 black and green snake enchantment creature token with Death Touch into the battlefield.
I wrote,
this has never been a good card.
I wrote
right?
meh. That's all. That was my notes on this one was meh. Like this was the first one I got to. I was just like, I don't really have any comments with this one. I don't think it's good. Like
it's agreed. I don't think you build this for new players. I
don't think you built this.
You got to try really, really hard to make this maybe even fun.
Yeah. Like it has a death touch snake. It's not even like a snake that kills a player or hits them their life in half. Like, because there'd be a goal there,
But it's not. You're also just
not a
giving them creatures.
Oh yeah, like if you're removing theirs, yeah.
I don't.
It's just from their graveyard. Yeah, this one. Let's just move on because this one is that one's not
all right.
Good.
Cool.
Fenix, God of Deception, a blue, black, and 3 colorless. So we're right at that 5 CMC. Creatures you control have tap. Target creature puts the top X cards of, or target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into the graveyard, where X is the creature's toughness. I like this one for new players because it teaches them mill. But at the same point, it's not a mill deck necessarily. You're playing big, fat creatures. You could do it as a wall deck, which I wouldn't do that, but you do bigger butt creatures and you tap to mill. You're not doing damage. You're just making people mill. I don't think there's a lot going on where people feel bad about putting their card. They don't realize milling is so hated in Magic.
Might be true.
It's not doing life loss. I like this one. I built this one a long time ago. I keep trying to build mill because of this guy is the first mill commander I ever built. I think it's good. I think it's a good one for players, and to realize it's teaching them not only can you lose by your life being lost, but also when you don't have a card to draw. Like that's not something you interact with as a new player very often, but this commander can very well teach that, and it's tough. It's tough when you're trying to kill 3 other players with 100 card decks. You have to work at it, so it's not an easy feat by any means there. But I think this one's a decent one for.
I think you talked me out of it right there.
Oh, because it's harder.
Well, I think it's going to be really unsuccessful, even though I do think it teaches like a different way of winning, and there are like in making that kind of thing. Well,
because
what I would probably make it some type of wall deck so that they can block and defend themselves quite a bit.
Well, I was going to go the other way, is go creature super heavy with this deck. Don't do the mill stuff. Just go super heavy on creatures.
Right. I'd turn it into a wall deck. That's what I would do, and have them blocking and be like, it can kind of teach like you block then tap if it's gonna die, like block, tap, mill, and have it die. So like there's some reaction time in there.
But what I'm
But
saying
mill is hated.
It is hated. But that's
And so that gets a target on your head, and then, or as a new player, it's hard to deal with that. And also, even if you're not being targeted, it's really hard to succeed. And I don't see the you want it to be probably a little bit closer to have them succeed.
The joy of milling a player out, I'm telling you. Even if you're in a 4-player game and you mill 1 player out, you feel like you won. Like there is this thing that gets fulfilled inside you when you mill a player out. It's so different. I can't. Have you built a mill deck before? Like
no, you do it all the time.
I know.
So
I know. I feel bad.
You're like, I want to build a mill deck. I'm
Mill.
okay. You do it.
You be the asshole.
Give it another go.
But the joy of milling 1 player, like I'll get killed. Like, you know, when I had my Brewvac deck, or when I had, you know, I had every single mill deck basically. They're all dead except for, you know, the new one I just built.
So you're a yes here. I'm a no.
Okay.
For new players.
All right. All right. This isn't the crazy
Perforos, bronze blooded, 4 colorless red. Other creatures you control have haste, which is kind of nice. But 2 in a red, you may put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from your hand into battlefield. Sack at the beginning of the next end step. It obviously has haste from Perforos.
This is level 2. This is level 2 or 3 even. Like
I put this out. I would say no.
Yep. I don't think.
Reason being, fat creatures like this end up, or like decks like this end up having, like, if you stumble at all, the deck is just dead.
Yep.
So you got to really hit your ramp to get Perforos, to get your other fat creatures into play.
And it's a lot of triggers of when they ETB and knowing your timing, because you do it. You could do it as attackers. You could do it as blockers, surprise blockers. The sacrificing, being able to, like, this can get really, really complicated. I mean, I know because I built this deck.
Yeah.
And then
I think this is too much for a new player. I would say no.
Yep, I agree. All right, I think probably one of the best ones, but it's gonna fall into that problem of being hated immediately. So I think this is too strong. But many people, I think Renshai and other people have said that this is probably their favorite one. But I don't know for new players. Perforos, God of the Forge, the OG. It's 4 CMC with the 1 red. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. Creatures you control, you can tap 3. Creatures you control get 1+0 until end of turn. So what I wrote down was, you can make this a tribal goblin deck. You can make this a tribal token deck. You can make this any type of really it's your goblins you're looking at because of the mono red stuff. I think that's the route you would go with a new player. But the problem is, we all know what Perforos is. Anytime Perforos is out, Perforos needs to die or that player needs to die. So the problem with this is, unless the new player is in a group that is high power or whatever, this is the person that's getting targeted. They're going to be, I guess even in high power, they'll get targeted. So I can't even imagine a situation,
Eventually,
unless they're all new players, that they don't realize how good Perforos is. This player is going to get player removed instead of...
But they'll learn real quick.
But then they won't play this deck.
Right.
You know?
I think this is not going to work for a new player. I think you put this in the hands of, like, high power. People know what you're doing. You know what you're doing, and go for the gold. As a new player, I think it's really powerful, but I don't think they're going to like the attention that they get.
Yeah. The only scenario I would say with a new player is if you're plopping the new player in with a group that is experienced and all that, like they're already high powered and all that, and them knowing that they're a new player, maybe that's the opportunity to play it.
That is probably, you know, where it's new guy has Perforos, and then there's Atraxa, the ninja deck, and feather. Like everybody's sitting down and just going, let's wreck face.
Yeah.
Then you're going to be fine. But if you're sitting down as a new player with a lot of inexperience, it's going to get rough real quick. You'll get 1 or 2 good games out of it, and then after that, it's going to be no fun.
Yep. All right, last 3 here.
Thassa, Deep Dwelling, 3 and a blue. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 other target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control, and then you can pay 3 and a blue, tap another target creature. Tapping the creature is going to not happen a whole ton just in general, but a new player likely isn't going to be doing that. But I do really like the 1 trigger blink effect.
Oh, yeah,
it's likely going to be an ETB deck, but it's not going to over trigger like a Brago or the other one. But I like this a lot. I think for its 1 color, it's right in there for the proper CMC. There's a lot that I like about this, so I think this would be a really, really good one for new players.
Yep. You said everything I was going to say.
All right.
You got the flicker or the blinking and all that, and so it's ETB stuff. So they learn ETBs, and like you said, they're not going to use the tap target creature. So Thassa, God of the Sea. This is 2 and 1 blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry, and then 2 target creature can't be blocked this turn. The unblockable's nice. The scry and looking at the top is nice. I just don't think this one's very sexy. I'd much rather have the other Thassa for a new player than this one. But
agreed.
It's good. It helps them decide, oh, I'm looking at the top. I really need a land right now, and there's a creature on top. Well, then I should probably put this on the bottom. It helps them figure out what they need, how to build their hand. But I don't know if you build a deck around that, and then the unblockable part. Again, the attacking part is where people lack on the new players. And so, again, you're making something that's unblockable, and they're not going to use that until it's towards the end. So this one, I'm like, it's good. It's not bad. I wouldn't say a new player can't use it, but how do you build a deck really around it? It doesn't feel like there's a theme.
I mean, kind of like, maybe creatures that you want to have deal combat damage.
I was about to say, when it hits a player.
Unblockable.
Yeah.
But I do... I started out in this right here just going, yep, I like this. I think this would be really good. But really thinking about, like, I like how it can trigger an upkeep and just kind of like have them go, oh, something happens before I draw a card.
Oh, that's a good point.
But scrying and new players have a hard time knowing what's in their hand because they don't know the cards very well. And so when they just draw a card, it's reshuffling everything in their head, and it takes a while. And what we're doing here with this Thassa is asking them to see if they even want that in the hand. And then if they do or don't, if they're drawing another card, then they're doing a whole nother of that process going, what's going on now?
Very good point. Very good
and
point.
So I think in the long run for a very new player, I would for that reason, I would avoid Thassa.
Yeah. All right. That's a very good point on that, the scrying part. All right, last one.
And our last one?
Yep, last one.
All right, Xenagos, God of Revels. 3 and a red and a green. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is that creature's power.
It's that attacking thing. I think it's harder.
I do think a more aggressive approach is harder for newer players. So I agree. I think that's part of it, is that I don't think you necessarily want to be super aggressive.
And again, there is no like theme necessarily that makes it interesting. Like, oh, a Xenagos. Xenagos is great in decks, but to get a new player to keep wanting to play this,
it's a powerful commander.
Well,
like you're putting
you're doubling
your twos in there, and then they end up being 14 9s. Like,
it is off their power, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could be like, yeah. I mean, I would probably say no for a new player on this one. It's very powerful, and I think we both agree that it's good in the 99 for sure. Like it just gets
Yep.
it can end games pretty quick.
Yep. Okay, really quick. If you had to choose one for a new player, what would you choose? Gonna look at my list.
You know what? It's the blinking Thassa, I think.
Oh, little blinking right there. Thassa
Yeah,
Deep Dwelling.
Thassa Deep Dwelling. I think monocolored, it's a proper CMC, the indestructible. And then you have a deck that has the ETB theme, like just doing whatever it needs to do. You can fill the deck out with a lot of creatures, which kind of makes it simpler so that you're likely not playing on other people's turns, which we have said that is a good thing from certain aspects, but just depends on what you're trying to do. And then you have triggers, but not a shit ton of triggers at once. So I think I like it in that regard. Where are you at?
I think I'm going to go with the first one that we starred, which is Afara,
Yeah.
God of Polis. Just because it will teach you how to play flash stuff. You're playing creatures. You're going to benefit by drawing cards. She doesn't cost that much to come out with 4. And you're getting creatures out. I mean, that's how you're kind of winning the game. You could even do some draw synergy type things in there if you wanted to, for more advanced players a little bit. But I think it's more of playing creatures at instant speed. It might be a little bit more advanced. Maybe it's 1 to 2 because you're playing.
Here's a thought too, is where we were thinking, like, those monocolored original Theros gods were a bit boring. And maybe more of what it is like Afara and Thassa can both be made simply, but they can scale up as a person gets better.
Oh, that's a good point.
And I think that is something that Afara does probably better than Thassa. Like Thassa ends up being like, you can make sure that a player is playing a creature or two on the turn. They're figuring out what ETBs are doing. And then as they like different ETBs, they can add in different things that they find or like and discover. Like there's so many ETBs that there's that discovery period.
Yeah.
With Afara, it's more of a skill-based improvement as you're going along. And so
the beginning you could just have it so it's only creatures on your turn.
Yeah.
Just to get the draw effect. And then as you get more advanced and get used to your deck, you can start adding in the flash creatures, instant speed stuff. I can see that.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. I think that'll do it right there. So we have still Stump the Smith Savant. Holy shit. If there's any other commanders that you guys like from the gods that you think you think would be good for new players, or maybe you've tested with new players, and let us know on that, which ones worked out well. Because I need to build 2 decks here with these, and I think I'm going to stick with the gods. I think I'm staying with this, and I will be building 2 decks for my boys to try to get playing here. So I want to hear your guys' opinions, too, on that. See if there's something that we're missing there that we didn't talk about. So let's get to Stump the Smith Savant. Where are we? Right there. And Lowry, you did not get stumped, so we are... It's time for everyone's favorite game show, Stump the Smith Savant. And before we get started here, make sure if you guys are watching this right now, give us a like, because we do have serial thumbs downers. We need to get that thumbs downers.
Jerks.
It's always, every video. Just one person, 1 to 3, but normally it's 1. So make sure you guys give this a like right now if you're watching, so that helps us out, helps the algorithms out. If you guys don't know how this game works, I am going to read the flavor text of a card. And Larry's going to try to guess a card by asking yes or no questions. Every yes, you'll hear this.
Hello, boobies.
Every no, you'll hear this.
Wrong, 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 wrong.
He gets up to 5 wrong guesses before he's considered stumped. The card has to be in at least 10,000 EDH rec decks. What else? Oh, he gets up to 3 clues. If he gets everything about the card but can't get what the card name is, he will get the initials. If he still has a clue left over, he'll get a bonus clue, which this time I did write it. I don't normally do that on the fly.
Hopefully I get there.
You do not have to be a patron or a part of the Discord to enter. You can just email us at commandersmiths@gmail.com with your card. Remember, it just has to be in 10,000 EDH rec decks, and then we will draw the names, and you will have a chance to win. Currently, it is the foil proxy of 3 Tree City that I made there. If Larry doesn't get stumped this week, we will add a card to the ante, so it'll be at level 2 because this is the 3rd week. Every 3 weeks, we add a card. When we get to level 3, Ragavan, donated from Tommy Olson, will be on the board. So make sure you guys get entered. This week's stumper is AJ. Lowry's record is 104-35. That's a pretty damn good record, buddy. So we are on round 35 in week 3, and here, oh yeah, I eliminated the chat, so chat can play along, see if you can guess it before Lowry. And here, boy, go. I gotta set the timer here too. Let me get this. Come and rest here beyond the constraints of space and time. Come and rest here beyond the constraints of space and time. Oops.
All right, so come and rest here makes me feel like it's a white card to a certain degree. But beyond the constraints of space and time make me feel like it's blue. Also, it kind of makes me feel like it's a non-permanent spell. But let's go. Is the color identity white and or blue?
Wrong, 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 wrong.
Beyond the constraints of space and time. I mean, that very much feels like blue. It doesn't feel like a black card where it's like reanimating or anything, but we're saying that it's potentially black, red, green, or colorless. Might be colorless. That'd be a bummer. If it's colorless, that makes it a permanent card, and if it's anything else, it feels like a non-permanent card. Is this a non... I am unsure. Let's go with can I get a first clue, please?
Nice. The art features an ancient temple in ruins, highlighted by a lone soldier statue bathed in light. The art features an ancient temple in ruins, highlighted by a lone soldier statue bathed in light.
I'm just clarifying. This is not blue and or white color identity.
Correct. Renshai?
It very much
no.
felt like a rest in peace.
That is not.
Come and rest here beyond the constraints of space and time. Also feels like it could be like Leyline of the Void. Like just exiling stuff. So I feel like exiling is in there. Still don't know if it is. Can I get that temple? A temple could also be part of that and part.
The art features an ancient temple in ruins, highlighted by a lone soldier statue bathed in light.
Is this a permanent card?
Hello, boobies.
Shit. This does not feel like a red or black or red or green card at all. So is this black and or colorless color identity?
Hello, boobies.
All right, so we know it's a permanent black or colorless, not both. Second clue, please.
The text features general protection, but only on your turn. The text features general protection, but only on your turn. I will say that the last time AJ got picked, he stumped you.
That son of a gun. Second clue again, please.
The text features general protection, but only on your turn.
Can I hear the meaning on general?
Yeah. General as in your commander. Oh, I wasn't sure you were going to pick that up. I tried to get away with it.
Okay. So can I hear it again?
The text features general protection, but only on your turn.
All right.
Damn it, I thought I snuck that one by.
All right. So black and or colorless. Boop, boop. The protection for your commander, but only on your turn, which that's a good. Okay, we know it's a permanent. We know it's black and or white, or colorless, not white. Black and or colorless. First clue, please.
Renshai, yes, that is what he doesn't have it yet, but he's asking a question. First clue is the art features an ancient temple in ruins highlighted by a lone soldier statue bathed in light.
And the second one is it offers your commander protection on your turn. Oh, that is a good one. Is there something in black, or is it like
Yes, Renshai.
like an equipment of some type that gives indestructible on your turn? Feels like indestructible. But it could be like black grants indestructible slightly. That is indestructible a word on the card at all?
Wrong, 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 wrong.
Temple. Can I get a third clue, please?
This card is in 28,000 EDH. 28,000 EDH.
28?
Yeah, 28,000 EDH rec decks. Only printed in Commander 2019, and most seen in Cardur Doomscourge decks. This card is in 28,000 EDH rec decks. It's only printed in Commander 2019. No other printings. And most seen in
Commander 2019?
Yeah. Which is like the shield with like the line. Okay. And most seen in Cardur Doomscourge decks.
Am I allowed to see which way the shield has a line through it? Because there's two of them.
Yep,
One
so
from
it
the left
goes
to right, one the right to left.
It
I don't
on
know
the
because it's
left
fucking
corner.
inverted in the camera.
It goes from left corner down to right.
I'll admit, I don't know the difference between the two.
I went a different way with writing the clues
But I
this
think it's
time.
the
I
fucking
made it.
stupidest shit. It
I made
pisses
it
me
more
off in
difficult.
an organization. Just like,
Yeah, I know. It's well, when I send in to like Card Kingdom or something like that, or even
yeah,
Card Sphere, I'm like, which version do I have here?
yeah. Yep. All right. Can I hear that again, please?
Yes. The card is in 28,000 EDH rec decks, only printed in Commander 2019, and most seen in Cardur Doomscourge decks.
Oh. Oh, this. Hats off, AJ. I'm not quitting yet, but great find. 28,000 decks. It's mostly used in corridor, so again, still could be black. Feels like an equipment of some type, but problem is what decks were in that one. So I feel like that was like the year before Ikoria.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, Ikoria was 2020.
Yeah. And so that was what? Was that the enchantment one? And only printed once. It's in Cardor. Is okay. I feel like this is an equipment, but is the
Oh, something's triggering.
That's. Can I hear the second clue, please?
The text features general protection, but only on your turn.
First clue, please.
Renchai, yes, you got it. The art features an ancient temple in ruins, highlighted by a lone soldier statue bathed in light. Under 10 minutes.
So we know it's a permanent. All right. We know it's a permanent. We know that it's black or colorless, so I should try and get that down. I do feel like this is an equipment, but also the art doesn't match what an equipment would be like. So in turn, I don't know. Is it an enchantment? A creature? So those are things. It's likely not an artifact. I mean, it can be at that point. And so is this card black?
You chose the wrong way.
Wrong, 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 wrong.
3 wrong?
Yep. 3
Okay.
wrong. 2 more.
So it's colorless.
Hello, boobies.
So it's either an artifact or a land. Protection, but only on your turn. For the commander, specifically. I mean, I was thinking, like, I think it's Conqueror's Flail, because it, like, stops people from casting stuff on your turn, but it's been reprinted. So that does not count. It doesn't have anything to do with indestructible. So we're talking like ward was not a thing at that point. So potentially hexproof or shroud. But like only on your turn seems not the best. Could be a land. What is a land only doing on your turn? Ooh, is it a land?
Hello, boobies.
Light bulb, maybe?
I think so.
You can only get 2 more wrong.
Does it return your commander to hand?
Oh,
Hello, boobies.
He's figured out the puzzle.
2 tap for that to
Hello,
happen.
boobies.
Yep.
Can only happen on your turn.
Yeah.
Is there anything else
Yeah.
that is needed?
I mean, you need to know there's one thing that the land does besides return.
Capture colorless.
There you go.
Hello, boobies.
All right. So that's what I did a little different with this clue this time is I didn't give everything about it. I just gave the main thing because I didn't want to reveal his land.
Yeah. For sure.
The initials S-O-E. S-O-E.
All right, 645 get left. 640. SOE.
I wish I could give you a bonus clue, but I can't.
Sanctum of. Nah, that's not like eternity. That doesn't make any sense. Sanctum of. Middle word is of.
Hello, boobies.
Sanctum seems right. First word sanctum.
Hello, boobies.
Sanctum of E.
Yep, E, as in like Edwards.
No. So I got 2 left.
Sanctum of Edwards.
Is that a is
Anthony
that a
Edwards.
Twilight reference?
Oh, I was thinking Timberwolves.
Oh. Even more obscure. I mean, is it eternity?
Hello, boobies.
You got it! Nice job. Oh, let me
There
minimize.
we go.
Yeah. Good job. Oh, well, too much stuff.
That was a very good one.
yeah,
AJ.
That was pretty
That
good.
was
Minimize.
I was not there.
How
took me
how
a
did it
quite-
all of a sudden like trigger for you? Like all of a sudden you were like, yeah, that's what it is.
I don't know.
And it's funny because then at one point you're like, you said it like when you just said it there, you're like,
Yeah.
it can't be Sanctum of Eternity. I was like, I made a face so that when I knew you weren't looking. I was like, yeah, it is. Nicely done. I can't believe you got that. So what helped you
Yeah.
get there? What eventually got you to get it? Like there had to be something that triggered in your head. Was it the art? Like
No, the art was not in my head at all. Like even as I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I was nowhere close to that. I think just the big thing was like trying to really focus on stuff that could only happen on my turn,
and
that's when. What?
I was gonna say I made it more. I did things different this time with clues because I didn't give you everything. Because what I've done in the past would have been like, it taps for mana
Yeah.
and blah 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 blah. And made it, but then I made it more of a clue on the second one, especially when it's. I think this one's it's played a lot. I don't necessarily have it in a deck, but it's great for flicker command. So like the fact that you put the puzzle together, that like it isn't protection in that like indestructible or hexproof or whatever. It's protection in that it pops it back to your hand.
Right. Well, and like if I'm trying to retrace the thought pattern that I was going with was I was thinking that the picture that was at least painted did not tell me that it was an equipment, even though it really felt like it should be. And so I started, and then knowing that it was colorless at that point, it had to be either a land or like it felt like an equipment. And the art that you were doing was not an equipment. I mean, it easily could have been.
Right.
It didn't feel like it. And so I was starting to trying to get rid of equipment out of my head, and then really only focusing on stuff that was coming, it was, I thought of Cardur and went, oh, he wants to come back to your hand.
Oh, good job.
So that you
was the
can
point of that
recast
one.
them.
Yep.
So that was probably the point where I was like, ooh, I have a really good feeling of what's going on there.
Nicely.
And so
done.
once I got rid of the equipment and then thought of the commander going, you know what? I was thinking that was it. I just was really worried about the eternity part. I was not sure what that was.
I'm gonna say I'm impressed how you worked yourself there, because I thought we were done there, because I didn't think I had you anywhere. And
It took a while.
yeah.
So
bonus clue was this place serves as a refuge for those lost in time, where the past and present converge in a realm of infinite possibilities. So you get both of the sanctum and the eternity in there. So good job, Lowry. AJ, if you want, you can sign this bad boy and send that our way at some point. I know you're in Hawaii, so it's a little bit harder to get here, but I'd love to put that on the board. Again, if you guys want to enter, we are going to add a card, not just 3 Tree City Proxy. We will have an actual card next week that will be up for grabs. If we get 3 more weeks past that, then we get the Regavan on board. So Make sure you guys, if you're not a part of the Discord, email us commandersmiths@gmail.com, or if you're part of the Discord, just send me a message directly. All right, gang, that should do it for this week. We will catch you guys next week.
Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
I love boobs. I'm talking tatas. I love boobs. I'm bonkers for honkers. I love boobs. Thanks for the memories. I love boobs.
Hey, Meat Force, could you kindly tap the like and subscribe button? And if you're ever in the mood, head on over to commandersmiths.com and you can get the shirts and mugs you see on the screen and some other stuff. Thank you.